Yo, is it good? We live?
We are live.
You're live. Hell yeah, boy.
Alright, I'm just going to find the video on a secondary platform so I can watch it, make sure everything's going through.
血の宿命だ。
私の愛する平八さんはやがて世界
So
を
we're
戦乱
going
に
to
巻き
see
込み
it is
多く
on.
の犠牲を生むでしょう
Alright, I'm just going to find the video on a secondary platform so I can watch it, make sure everything's going
貴
through.
様の血の宿命だ。
私の愛する平八さんはやがて世界
I think it sounded like everything was coming through.
I was just getting it set up so it would not be playing the desktop audio as well.
Okay. Well, so it's not gonna play the game volume then. And as we stop, Masa disappeared.
No, Rob is doing D&D right now.
Ah. I was meant to be, game got cancelled.
Oh.
Alright, so can you guys hear the chat in the background running on my phone?
No?
I
was meant to be, game got cancelled.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I was just messing with some audio settings.
Okay.
Alright, so can you guys hear the chat in the background running on my phone?
Okay, that was an echo.
Yeah, that was my own audio coming through because I've been muted. Okay. So right now it should be saying combat connection starting soon. Woohoo!
Hell yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to go to Streamlabs. I will go to my live screen, which should be showing whatever we see now. Just got to wait for it to load through on YouTube since there's a slight delay between Streamlabs and YouTube. Yeah, it says looking for game to capture. Just gotta wait on that. Alright. We're good to go when you guys are.
Alright, you mind getting to the damn game then, boy.
Alright. Is it a tournament or...
I sent you an invite.
Well, I haven't accepted it.
Well, then it's sent.
Unread messages. If I could get it to open. Play game. Should be joining. So, welcome to this hellhole again, guys.
Yeah, welcome back to another day of sorting out tech rather than actually playing the game.
It's been a minute since we did a live stream, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've done much here, to be fair.
Yeah.
But we are live, we are playing Tekken, we are taking requests for characters and conversation topics. We're just gonna have a nice sort of martial arts based chat while we chill and game.
Yeah, and you guys are more than likely to join us as well.
More than welcome to. Not more than likely to. Although, who knows? Alright, and we're going in, and it is game time.
We're just sitting here waiting.
What are we waiting for?
I was waiting on someone to select a certain match, but someone ignored it, and now I have to fight Luca on a controller I'm not used to.
I didn't know you were waiting for me.
Oh, that sounds like a personal issue. Pay more attention.
Yeah.
I'm not good at being aware. We've been over this.
Yeah, we've been over the fact that you can't even be aware when someone's trying to fucking stab you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Pulls out a whole fucking katana. Give me all your money. He walks 10 hours. Friends, how did you walk
It
away
was not a
from someone trying-
katana.
Oh,
But yeah.
whoa. Fuck, no, you're really playing.
How did you say that?
Which bit?
Ninja?
Yeah, ninja.
It sounded different the first time you said it.
That almost sounded illegal.
Y'all are fucking terrible.
It's your
You're
accent.
the one who said it.
You can't call us terrible. You're British.
Yeah, that's true. You guys are like the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
No, you guys are worse.
I mean, yeah, but you did like cause a lot of shit to happen.
And then you guys perpetually continued it into the future.
I am not part of any of this colonialism stuff.
You've been in America pretty much your whole life. You can take part of it.
Actually, Masa, you came up in conversation yesterday.
Oh?
Yes. Our returning guest, Beast King, was interested in something that you had talked about before.
Oh? What?
Yeah, saying racist for this beast.
What you had talked about on your trip back to where you were born,
Hmm?
where you remembered the home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like he was doing a study on like memories as early as that.
Oh.
He thinks you have a weird extra mind demon. He wants to like exercise it or some shit.
That is not in the slightest what he was talking about.
Well,
Fucking
it's
hate.
not even a memory because I was never actually at that home. That's the thing.
It was a vibe.
Like, I was born in the hospital and then immediately taken to foster parents, so I'd actually never been to that house.
I mean, it's still an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Swear
Yeah.
to fuck, it does not stop teleporting.
That's just because you said it. I want you to know that. Look at you.
Man, yeah, this delay to the YouTube stream is kind of crazy.
Oh yeah, like it gives us time to kind of think, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, but what you're saying isn't lining up.
Well, no, like it's just a full-on delay for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, but like the commentary we're talking about isn't isn't based on what everyone else is saying. It's based on what we're saying.
Yeah,
Well,
pretty
then,
much.
Other than me getting stabbed by his ninja ass bitch, fucking teleporting with the fucking consoles.
That is your...
Do you console?
Wait, what happened?
Why is a Tanto your fucking teleportation device? What the fuck?
I don't know, and if Boojing... I say this every live stream. Also, Masa, ready up. If Boojing Khan can teach me to teleport, I will train ninjutsu.
Yeah, my controller with it right now.
You fix it.
Well, what the fuck do you think I'm doing?
I don't know.
I'm trying to fix it.
Oh.
Fix that. Get some duct tape on it. I guess I'm
Okay.
gonna get it.
Is it stuck?
Just ignore it. I got it.
Is it stuck? Yes. Does it need to be stuck? No, get WD-40. Is it stuck? Yes. Does it need to stay stuck? Yes, get duct tape. There, now you know redneck engineering.
Lovely.
And if it doesn't work, get a hammer and hit it.
No, it's not gonna work. not gonna be fun.
What's not?
I'm just waiting for this game.
Who you playing as?
I'm gonna be playing as Bruce Lee. Martial law. Oh, you're a Muay Thai guy. JKD versus Muay Thai. Well, I don't suppose it's actually JKD. It's more just like film Bruce Lee. I kind of want to see a Bruce Lee character that uses actual JKD.
Aww.
Of course, then he'd just be like a tall blonde guy that gets put on the floor by trying to teach short spinning back kicks. I can't tell you how many times I've watched that video just to laugh.
Yeah? I hate the lack of technique there. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I saw a decent point about it. It's like, you shouldn't, if someone's really good at fucking someone up, then you shouldn't see technique, you should see someone getting fucked up. And the dude got fucked up.
But yeah, I still think you should see technical skill there, you know?
I mean, kind of, but there's reason for it. But like, you didn't see a lot. You saw him slap the dude, then you saw them move past the camera, and by the time the camera was back on them, the dude pretty much dropped on the floor. And then he was just basically slapping him, and as he said, he didn't want to hurt him, he just wanted to show him that he was fucked for trying anything.
Oh, look at that combo.
The hell was that?
I don't know. It's the second time you've done it.
It's one of my grappling techniques. Like, I know how I did it, I just don't know what the fuck it's meant to be.
And these characters is ridiculous.
Yeah.
What about the characters?
The size difference.
Oh yeah, well, this dude's meant to be like a genetically engineered superhuman or something, isn't he?
Yeah, like he's just buffed up. That's all he is.
Yeah, and this is just Bruce Lee. Come on, big boy. Oh, oh fuck. Yo, why is he glowing like that?
He got struck by lightning. They stole him from his family, and he started fighting more Muay Thai against armies instead of people.
He's wearing wraps, and I literally saw saying just before we started this live stream. It's like a YouTube thumbnail, and you know that bubble gum that comes in like a bowl, and it's like a straight line, and you just unravel it and get more.
Yeah. It's like a thin line, almost like a roll of tape.
Yeah, isn't it like just bubble tape or something? Bubble gum tape.
Yeah, someone made hand wraps out of it.
Ew.
Yeah, that's not sanitary or useful.
Yeah.
Let's hope no one fucking ate that afterwards.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah, it does.
Is he playing D&D online or in person?
Online.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, teach their own. That sounds disgusting. Is he enjoying it?
Yeah. He's in like 3 different campaigns.
How does he keep it straight in his head?
Hell if I know. He's
I'm
like,
in
this
2.
is this. Wow, that didn't give me like any time to pick my character.
Well, you got distracted talking about D&D.
That's what happens to most D&D nerds, yeah?
Yeah, pretty much. I was actually playing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I literally, I started on half health. We were getting attacked by a giant worm, and then by the end of it, I was turning to stone because I've been petrified. And just like one round before I fully turned to stone, I threw a dart, and it went down the worm's throat and choked it to death.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Nerd!
Boy, we're live streaming an anime fighting game. Ain't no one here can say shit about being a nerd.
Yes, we can. Anime's popular in... It's become mainstream almost.
Yeah, I found out my niece is really into anime.
Ooh.
What?
Which animes?
Woo.
Ray doesn't, or sorry, my sister doesn't really know
Woohoo.
the anime. But she's heard of
Woohoo.
Slayer, so that's, I guess, one. Oh my god, can you stop doing that
Yeah.
shit?
Woohoo!
I mean, Demon Slayer is pretty popular. I know Griff likes it.
Yeah.
Look at you. I can do backflips. Woohoo! Woohoo!
I mean, pretty much, like, as soon as My Hero came out, it got things like the big wave of anime nerds becoming the norm.
Yeah.
Because everyone just went like, over my door.
Bum.
Yeah, my sister just like, as long as it's appropriate, I don't care.
How old is the kid?
It's anime.
I should know this. I think she's like 12.
I should know this. I think she's like 12. Good gracious.
Dude, I don't even know my mom's birthday, okay?
That is...
I know, I'm going to hell.
I mean,
I mean, that's
that's besides the point. Masa, I know you love that technique.
Technique. I will kill you, Luca.
I didn't do anything. What did I do?
I don't know who I'm battling.
What the fuck?
You're battling the only one here who plays this chick.
I don't play as no annoying ass fucking bitch. Jesus. I didn't even pay him for that.
Alright.
You have one knee, I have two. I also have teleporting. Can you teleport?
Nope,
You know,
but I can fly. Or rather, I
In
can
it?
make you fly.
Get ready to fly. But I say, in anything other than a video game, doing staircasing is really fucking impressive. Like, if anyone ever managed to like, do that and pull it off properly without landing on their ass, they would automatically get everyone's favorite.
We actually had a interesting discussion the other day. Luca, you heard about it.
Probably.
The group chat discussion that I read for like 30 minutes straight.
Oh, right, yeah, the one where you end up just getting out of breath because you were reading like an hour worth of fucking paragraphs of speed.
Yeah? It was on traditional arts being ineffective until modern practitioners begin to use them.
Which is awesome. Oh,
It's-
shit.
It's what you are using it for, you know?
Like, they had a full discussion on it, and it was interesting.
Speaking of traditional arts and modern practitioners, time to play as the Olympic karate girl. Because that's very sort of appropriate for right now anyway. Olympic karate's been going on. I've seen like I've seen like 3 rounds of Kumite and yeah, that's about it.
You know what? I think this is appropriate on my views against Olympic karate.
What about it?
Look at who I'm playing.
I can't see who you're playing yet. It's loaded. You're playing. What does The Walking Dead have to do with Olympic karate?
Wanting to bash the Olympic karateka's head in with a bat.
That's really fucked up.
Yes, it is. I mean, they're missing a very, very broad audience, and it's extremely limited. I mean, look at the WKF compared to any other association. You're getting 1% of people and saying, well, this is the best of the best for karate.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good for exposure for the art as a whole.
That's the thing, though. Like, there was, what's the term? My bad English. What is it? What is the piece of paper, like, you sign? Like, hippies run up to you all the time. Hey, do you want to sign a
Petition?
petition. Yeah, there's a petition for like Kyokushinkai ruled karate in there, and it got thrown out after like the first year.
I mean, I'm not saying that wouldn't be interesting. I think this is more in keeping with the sort of events that they already have, more realistically, and it's easier to judge. And the thing is with the Olympics is it's meant to be for everyone, and it's meant to be palatable for everyone, and not everyone wants to watch a bunch of dudes hammer each other in the chest until they like.
Okay, now my only argument for that is an argument of throwing yourself aside as a martial artist, right? You are not a martial artist. You're just an average Joe watching the Olympics because it's what everyone's watching right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you, as a average person, tell a difference between karate and taekwondo within the Olympics?
Yes.
How so?
I think an average person could.
I don't think they could.
The karate guys have been putting each other on the floor and punching each other.
The average person doesn't even know there's more than like karate.
Like if you showed, think of it this way: if you showed someone who has never trained martial arts in their life a video of Olympic karate right now, could they tell you, "Hey, this is karate, this isn't taekwondo"? If you told them, "Hey, this is taekwondo," would they believe you?
Yeah, probably.
That's my whole point. It's too similar.
Yeah, but that's the thing though, is that I think the fact that people still, in your country a lot, in America, that people still consider Taekwondo a form of karate. So even if this isn't the best representation of karate, what it's doing is at least showing that there's a difference and bringing more exposure to the art to make people have.
But what difference are they showing though?
Well, they're different events for starters, so people are gonna realize, wait.
Like that's the thing though. Like this is based on WKF rule sets. If you look into the WKF versus like, I think it's either ITF or WTF Taekwondo. They're almost identical within Kumite. They're not being different enough.
The way they fight is slightly different. The Taekwondo
Slightly different. I mean, think about it. They're sitting there and it's still point fighting. So they're still sitting there and they're going for points. Would you be able to tell an even bigger difference if they were sitting there and it was full contact fighting? Leg kicks, takedowns, everything.
Yeah, but then you could also not tell the difference between that and K1 if they put that.
But is K1 in the Olympics currently?
No, but if they did put that in, they would be able to tell the difference. It doesn't matter what rule set you use. What matters is what the fighters display. Because, like it or not, that is a rule set that's used within karate school. So it's not wrong to say this is karate. It's just.
But if they're wanting to show a difference between Taekwondo and Karate, they went a different route than I would think would be the best option.
Well, I don't think there is an intention. I think it's an element that's coming up as a result of it. Their intention was likely to get exposure for karate, as it's something that's rolling down the wayside more. Something like MMA has come into fashion, and Taekwondo has been in the Olympics for a long time.
Well, like I said earlier, the petition for full contact karate, knockdown karate, right? They threw it out. There was no reasoning for this. They just threw it out. That would have been different than anything that is currently within the Olympics.
I think a lot of the Olympics events are boring, honestly.
Yeah, like you can't even lie about it. Why put something in there if you're wanting to gain exposure that is so similar the average Joe would not be able to tell a difference if you threw it in front of them? Put something in there that stands out and doesn't look like anything that is currently within the Olympics.
Because, again, that could be seen as too violent and wouldn't be palatable for the general public.
Oh please, the general public is loving the UFC and shit. Do you know how many people know how to pronounce my last name now?
Yeah,
that is the best argument for the UFC I've ever heard.
Like, and I'm not even talking about like in martial arts gyms. Like, I went to the eye doctor, and they knew how to pronounce my name because of these fighting franchises.
See, I've never had that issue with my last name. It's fairly easy.
It's boring.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've never had my last name before. My first name I've had different pronunciations. People have jumped around on it a bit.
Yeah.
That's because the Irish don't like to spell things how they meant to sound.
I mean, neither do the French.
Yeah, no, the French are very strange words.
The French know how to spell.
I mean, better than Americans.
I'm sorry, Masa. This is the only way I can win right now.
Why? No one wants
Play
to
like-
watch that.
No one wanted to watch you spam knees.
Okay, fine.
Fine, I won't use it this round.
Bullshit, you won't.
Really.
How are you winning with the Kung Fu? Kung Fu don't work.
The Jingyi.
Yeah, it is Xingyi Chuan. To be fair though, you're going against Bujin Khan, so it's much of a muchness in the end.
Well, it's your problem now.
Gyro says we have an interesting point about Olympic TKD and karate.
Well, let's see. What do you believe? Like in the comments, how do you feel about that? Do you agree with me or do you agree with him? I'm taking so I'm gonna be mute.
I mean, there is an issue though with the Olympics.
There are lots of issues with the Olympics. There are issues with martial art representation as a whole, but there are still positives that are coming from karate being in the Olympics, even if it's not the best representation.
Well, the
Yeah.
sorry,
Speak.
what were you
Go on.
saying?
No, I said I think the difference is determinable if you watch both. And not to mention the fact that karate also has kata, as well as, say, taekwondo doesn't have any, what do they call it, from say?
Yeah.
Taekwondo doesn't have a Pumse event. Which I know a lot of people don't, because kata's meant to be like useless or not part of like actual fighting, and some people say it's just for kids, but kata holds a lot of the core techniques that are within the art, and it's a good performative way to show the uniqueness that karate has.
So
Yeah,
like,
there are issues with kata and that they have limited katas for that the organization prefer and things like that, and limited ways of doing it that are within the organization's preferences as opposed to the practical way of doing it. However, no one's saying that this is the best karate. They're just saying that this is good for, has benefits for karate.
Well, the issue that I was reading is that people aren't, like, not as many people are into watching the Olympics. And it's like, yeah, because it's effing boring. That's why I don't watch it. If they mix up the events, though, you know, like adding more martial arts, fighting, MMA, that kind of stuff, I mean, because that's popular, it might help revive interest in the Olympics.
Is it popular though? I know MMA is popular, UFC itself, but even then UFC is popular, and then you have stuff like, even Bellator is probably the second biggest, and even that is ridiculously small by comparison. No one really knows what Bellator or ONE FC are compared to how many people know what UFC is. Like, most people couldn't even tell you what martial arts were mostly used within MMA UFC. It's still not as popular, like, martial arts is still a niche area of interest. It's just that that's a big competition that people can get involved in because there's a lot of characters. The reason UFC is big is they're turning into WWE. They've got all these, like, unintentionally maybe, because no one needs to script Conor McGregor to be a complete ass wipe like they do in WWE. He just is, and then people can root for Khabib and Poirier.
But the thing is, because I feel like the MMA scene, it tends to be more younger people, it might help bring in more younger audience. Because I feel like the people who watch the Olympics are like our parents. You know,
I
older
don't think
people.
UFC is that much of a younger audience. I feel like it's younger than the Olympics maybe, but it's still mostly like late.
I think the
teens
UFC. I think the UFC's general audience is primarily middle-aged individuals.
Okay.
My reasoning for that is think of who would have been in high school wanting to watch a lot of violence when the UFC first got started. They're middle-aged now.
That's fair.
I just think that the Olympics could have went a different route than what they did for karate.
Well, I just think they should mix it up in general.
Jaro says, in my opinion, I agree with you both in a way. However, I do really agree that the point style of TKD and karate and Olympics are very similar. True Olympics is pretty boring.
Yeah, I'm reading it. My main thing is they're not completely similar, but again, for the general public, they wouldn't be able to see as much of a difference to be able to identify each if they were watching them. They couldn't just walk halfway through a match and say, "Oh, that's karate." They couldn't walk halfway through a match and say, "Oh, that's taekwondo."
But again, you can say that for anything that has the same point set, the same rules, similar rule sets. Go ask the general public to distinguish Muay Thai and left way, distinguish judo and probably not judo, distinguish wrestling ensemble or something like that.
But there's still differences within the Olympic sports. I'm not talking about just martial arts in general. I'm talking about the martial arts that are included within the Olympics at this current point in time.
Yeah, but then if they choose to add something else, then you're just gonna run into this problem on their side. If they
Yes,
say, hey,
but
if they go to Thailand and they say, hey, let's add Muay Thai, and then how are general public going to distinguish Kyokushin rules and Muay Thai rules?
okay, the only difference with that is Muay Thai currently within the Olympics? No. They already have something that looks similar to what they just added, so they already have something to look towards. They can't plan for the future, but they can plan for what's already in there.
What do you mean they can't plan for the future? They're a massive organization that has everything planned out for literal years.
Look at how many sports have been quote unquote rumored to be included within the next Olympics and then never show up. There's a lot of things that people say are going to be within the Olympics and then they just never show up for good reason. I mean, you can't really fault them for that. But what I'm saying is you can't plan for the next art that comes in because they're going to sit there, twiddle their thumbs, and try to decide what's going to be in next. This is going to take years. Look at how many years they pushed for karate to be in the Olympics. Since they finally got it in, they have full authority to change it to be the event that they want it to be. If they already have an art that looks similar to what they just added in, then they have something, hey, we don't need to make it look like this. Then the next art, hey, we don't need to make it look like what's already there. If you already have almost like a preset event that is almost identical, then you know, hey, don't make it look like this.
Okay, but they didn't decide, they didn't say these are the rules for karate. They went, as they do for all of their events, to the biggest governing body for the event that they're adding in and had their rules and judgment for it. It's not like the Olympics go out and make these rules. They go to the big organization that has the rules for the event for this sport and says, cool, we're using your rules.
This is
and
like
it or not, I'm not saying I like it or not, the WKF or the karate organization it's in is the biggest karate organization.
okay, and that's going as far as organizations. Look at how many organizations have been created via the Olympics, created as a rule set for the Olympics. Okay? If you look into the WKF itself, only 10% of karateka actually belong to it. You don't have to go with a pre-existing organization. You're excluding 90% of karateka to have an opportunity to try to make this.
And if they make a new organization, then no percent of karateka are included because no one's under it. They need a already organization to see who qualifies. Like, they already had the best of the best ranked out within this to say, yo, these guys are going to be the Olympics.
The best of the best of 10%. The best of the best of 10% is still a fraction of 10%.
Of 10%, but which organization has more than 10%?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. If there's no organization that includes everything, then create your own thing for the Olympics. Look at judo when it first got incorporated. Now you have Olympic judo. It was created for the Olympics. They didn't go to, hey, this is what's already being done, we're going to do exactly this. No, they said, hey, this is how we're going to incorporate it, and they included whoever wanted to be incorporated, which sprung to the creation of what we have now. You don't have to follow what's already been set as a guideline for 10% of the public.
Okay, but again, if they didn't use a preset organization, how much would they have to go through, figure things out? They're trying to... Karate is not always going to be the same, and trying to figure out how to include all of it is going to end up poorly. Look at what happened when China created the IWUF. They tried to create everything mimicking the way that karate already had done it, and other arts had already done it, and make this governing body that includes everything in a broad spectrum of arts with different forms and different techniques and different elements. And it became one of the most hated things in basically martial arts history.
Okay, and if you go to, like...
With the whole government, so you can say that it would be better if the Olympics tried to do that for something just as similar. And as much as you're saying, well, Kyokushin rules would have been better, it would have been more entertaining, it would have been better representation, it would have been more different. How much of karate practices under Kyokushin rules or knockdown karate rules as opposed to point tournament rules? It's not a large percentage. I feel like you'd probably be excluding a lot more of people who train for this sort of sporting event, because these are the sporting events people associate with karate. Like it or not, when you think karate sport events, you think
and
performance.
See, I highly disagree with you on that, for the fact that look at how many different rule sets have been formed via the Olympics for different things, martial arts related or not. Okay, if we're looking at that, they've shown that they have the options to make this work. Okay, if we look into karate as a whole, they're doing the WKF. Certain things are excluded within the WKF, which ends up being around 10% of the karate population. Okay, if that's 10%, you're saying you would exclude more just by doing knockdown karate. No, you have knockdown karate tournaments that are open to any style. Okay, so the styles that I've seen within knockdown tournaments, okay, you're excluding a bigger amount just by sitting there going, hey, only WKF members can do this. Knockdown tournaments, I've seen Goju Ryu practitioners, I've seen Shorin Ryu practitioners, Shito Ryu practitioners, Wado Ryu practitioners, Shidokan, Shotokan, and Yoshikai, as well as Kyokushin and Kyokushinkai. If you look at the whole population of these arts, they greatly outnumber the 10% of the WKF that's being included.
No, but even if the knockdown tournaments let other schools come in, don't have a limitation on the schools that are coming in, it's not what the majority of schools practice. It's not what the majority of competitive schools in karate practice. You're literally saying, this is the sport that karate has had for years now, and you would say to go for a different sport that less of the karate schools use to make it more distinguishable. Because even in other organizations... But even then, you're not making it distinguishable to the general public. You're putting something that looks almost identical to the public in there. There's nothing that sets it apart to the public where they say, hey, we want to keep this. Because in the end, the public that watches, you got to see what, hey, do they like this? Do they not? Is this something that we want to keep within the Olympics? So this isn't a one-time event. Like, yes, the Kumite is similar, but they still have a completely separate event that Taekwondo has nothing to do with.
Alright, and the general public, if they sit there and watch kata, do they know half of what's going on? A lot of times you see, hell, even look at MMA fighters, right? You have people that train MMA. They look at kata, what do they call it? Oh, this is dance. It doesn't interest them. But if you go around to any MMA guy, I've literally seen this from 99% of the guys that I've talked to who train in the cage. They fight in the cage, they train in MMA gyms. And this is throughout Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida. That's just the majority of the people I've talked to. If you look at them and you say, hey, what do you think about karate? Their immediate response, oh, that stuff doesn't work. Except for Kyokushin. They say except for Kyokushin because Kyokushin has somewhat made a large name for itself. So, by incorporating the rule set that Kyokushin employs, then you would be kind of offering it to a broad amount of people, because you know as well as I do, people change for the sport. Look at judo. You have judo schools now that just train Olympic judo. There's no newaza, it's all nagewaza, and even then they sacrifice a lot of positioning just so, hey, I don't want to lose these points.
Yeah, but that's again a different time. Judo has been in there a lot longer, and judo had changing rule sets already. Karate has had this set in rule set. It's had this large recognized organization that even before it was in the Olympics recognized as the Olympic type karate. Yeah, and this is the thing that these schools have trained for, because even if it's only 10% of karate, like you keep saying, there is no organization that has more than 10% of karate.
Okay, but if you disregard organizations, it can be created as such if you look into judo.
Okay, but there's still rule sets. Even if they make a new organization and say this is Olympic karate, there's still the majority of schools are going to be practicing under WKF rule set or similar rule set, not Kyokushin rule set.
Okay, and if they want to compete in this event, they will change, as you've seen with other arts, different sports. That's my whole thing, is people change to fit the sport. You see lots of systems who never did tournaments start to change because, hey, the general public wants to compete against each other. You look at the way that they're training now, hey, why do they train this way? Because that's what's available to them. If they made the movement, which there's enough people backing it now, hey, knockdown karate could be included. Hey, karate combat is a large thing now. You'd get more people wanting to train this way, which in turn would change for the sport. People change to be able to fit into what's there.
Those weren't arts that already had their school rule set, an established school rule set that has been recognized as this is how they're going to compete, and has been recognized as this. If this goes into the Olympics, this is how it's going to be, as this point rule set and these types of kata rule sets have.
Okay,
also,
but
about Arnie, his group near him wants to make Arnie's Olympics. If you think what we think about that, I'm not sure how you make that up.
well, I mean, if you look in the Philippines, it's the national sport. They've got something good going around, and it'd look really entertaining to the general public. I think it could do fairly well.
Fencing.
It's just like most of the time it's like doble baston, and they're wearing full armor, so it's dual sticks sitting there just beating the mess out of each other. It looks like a brawl.
I worry about it turning into fencing, because while what you said about like they adapt to schools, most of the time it's not for the best. When it turns into an Olympic sport, it doesn't adapt for the better.
Yeah.
It loses a lot, and I think when it comes to something as broad as Arnie's Kali Eskrima, there's no way that they'd be able to include enough in it that people wouldn't start just practicing only what was there, and a lot of it, like a lot already have, only practicing stick or only practicing like static knife defense, Krav Maga style, and calling it Kali. This was a terrible decision. Taekwondo against my attack.
Let me see.
That's already basically put on a point system sets. I think it could be interesting. You could have like multiple events, so you could have long sword, you could have sword and buckler, and you could have spear.
But even then, wouldn't it turn into fencing?
I mean, yeah, but if you put in different weapons, and I mean, it pretty much is kind of, if you depends on where you go. Fencing with more history.
So,
I
like,
think between a rapier and a longsword, or a rapier and a spear could be. It's fairly significant. Significant enough.
I'm still kind of caught up on the karate thing. Because I'm using judo as pretty much the premise of what I'm basing my thoughts on this for. Like, the,
Which different time, and again, it didn't already have.
Well, like, you keep talking about time, but the International Judo Federation was created in 1951. That's what the rule set's based on. Do you know when judo was incorporated into the Olympics?
When?
1960. That's 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you look into, like, full contact karate, if we're using Kyokushin as the basis, let me see. First recorded Kyokushin tournament was developed and pioneered in the late 1960s. So 1960 to 2021, that's a lot more time than 1951 to 1960.
Yes. Do you not get the point there?
What I'm saying is there's more time just to kind of see that it can be changed. Because,
Okay,
like if you look
Yeah,
into 19, for example, if you look into the judo, International Judo Federation was created in 1951, okay? When was judo itself first developed, right? Judo first developed in 1882. So from 1882 to 1951, you'd seen the changes that had been established, and then from 1951 to 1960, you saw how much it changed for the sport. What I'm saying is you've seen that change can be implemented.
I'm not saying, yeah, but that completely missed my point entirely. My point was that there's already been, before now, a long time set of rules that have been established as the sports rules. And that's what people who have wanted to do it as a competitive sport in Olympic tournaments have been training for, and it's becoming the majority. Judo didn't really have a thing of it, had a complete rule set, and then the Olympics came around and decided they were going to do a completely different rule set, and so judo switched into that. Like, no one was training judo for a sport, and then it turned around and said, no, the sport's going to use these rules, and then it switched.
I can't really get behind that just because how identical it looks to Taekwondo. And that may just be a personal thing, but I feel like they could really draw more of a crowd having full contact karate, and they would draw from a fairly large crowd being the full contact karateka.
But I think that that's just less convenient.
I just think they could pull more from it. Because, like,
even if they create the change by putting it in, that would still take years. It wouldn't be an immediate reaction. No martial art changes overnight or over one event of the year. It's literal years of rule sets and adaptations. I don't think schools are going to suddenly turn around and say, okay, we're going to start doing Kyokushin now. I know you've all not got used to this. None of you are conditioned. Some of you have got black belts in this art that you've worked like 10, 15 years to be this like third, fourth dan, but now we're going to completely change the way we practice. Because the Olympics said so, you know. The majority of people who chose karate to do as a sport have been practicing under these rules and under this fighting style. You can't elicit social change that easy, especially since the Olympics aren't even that far.
Well, I don't think it's so much changing current places as much as it might allow more dojos to open up that do Kyokushin, because there would be a spike in popularity. But I think that's
like even if it was like an open tournament, because you see open full contact knockdown tournaments all the time, where you see these people who train sport fighting, they go over to it. Karate Combat being one of them. Look at how many people there are former WKF champions. One of those was I can't remember his full name, but I remember his fight name being like the Preacher. He was from Louisiana. He's a WKF champ. He switched over to full contact karate just for Karate Combat. So you've seen people do it and do fairly well. Look at how popular Karate Combat is now. A lot of people thought, hey, this isn't going to amount to anything right when it started up.
But karate combat got popular because it was doing something that wasn't recognized as ordinary. The point of the Olympics isn't to change and break barriers, it's to show a representation of what people are practicing, and it's not really a fair representation if you're going to do something that's not the majority of the sport or the style. Because whether we like it or not, as much as we all want traditional karate, full contact training, that's never really been the majority or popularity of karate. At least not in a very long time.
Let me just...
And also, karate combat isn't purely karate, because Oliver Enkamp went in there. He does karate, but he's MMA trained.
It's like, if you look into the WKF, think of how many styles you can think of off the top of your head, right? How many styles of karate?
Yeah.
Do you know how many styles are recognized by the WKF? Goju Ryu, Shito Ryu, Shotokan, Water Ryu. That's all they recognize.
Well, those are recognized by a lot of people as the four core style. And that's because a lot of their katas are sort of universal. And so there are more styles encompassed within it. Like, we know someone whose style isn't recognized by that, but practices katas from a recognized style because of the similarity, and then they are part of this organization, and their competitions in the school are part of this organization. So even if they don't recognize that style, you're still allowed to compete. And it's just you practice you when you're displaying, use the katas from the style.
But even then, that goes against what we just talked about. You said how many people are going to change for the tournament. How many schools had to change? Hey, this is the WKF. They're not accepting what we do. We got to change for that.
But they're not changing because they're not. This pretty much in those, the reason those are considered the four styles is because they have katas that are in every style. So almost any style can probably go in except for maybe Kyokushin and I think Goichi Ryu. And I think it's different to say you learn these katas than it is to say you fight under a rule set that you never practiced, under like a completely different intensity level that you're not used to, that the majority of people aren't used to. Because more people are used to doing those katas than are used to fighting knockdown tournaments.
I mean, if the gym wasn't interested in doing the Olympics to begin with, though, I mean, I feel like if they were interested, they would have made one that's currently in the Olympics. I don't think they're gonna change everything now.
Yeah, I just don't think it's as, like, again, as much as I think I prefer schools that fight under knockdown rules, and I think they're more practical. As a sport, this is what people have been training as, and I don't think it's a fair representation to say, well, this is what karate is, when it's not what the majority of karate schools do.
I mean, let's be fair. The Olympics isn't showing what the majority of people are doing. That's why it's the Olympics.
Like, think of, you've seen the old videos of judo, right? We've watched them together. How much newaza did you see in comparison to judo in the Olympics now?
A lot, but it wasn't just judo that sparked that change. You said that before yourself.
I couldn't hear you that. You cut out at the end?
You said before yourself it wasn't just the Olympics that sparked judo's rule set change. They didn't just decide, well, this is what they're saying, so now we're just going to stop doing that. There was a lot more to it, and like the politics and the reasoning.
But you also have different people who try to stay as close to the roots as they can. Look at that in comparison to how many people changed because of the Olympics. There's tons of kids in like lower income areas who will sit there and they'll try to learn an art, and they'll sit there, think of it, if you're in an area where you think, hey, I can get out of here if I can make the Olympic team, and you say, well, you know what, this newaza isn't really as important for the Olympics, I'm going to focus purely on nagewaza. That's what's going to happen. And
how
then
many people are going to actually do that?
then in that way, you're asking for what you're asking for then is for the Olympics to do counter to what it really does. Because when something adapts for that sport, tournament, it loses a large amount of focus so that it can adapt to a more focused sport or get a more clean, sort of obvious ruling in its sport tournament, so it has less traditional roots. And what you're asking for is something that will be closer to the traditional roots and have more to determine and more up to like less of like this is a point for this and more of well they're hitting harder I think so I'm going to give them more points. You're asking for what you're saying is
you know knockdown tournaments, the points are for who hits harder, right? The points awarded are for single knee touching mat, hand touching mat, double hand, or double knee touching mat. You're awarded points via knockdown, so it'd still be fairly simple. Hey, their knee hit the floor, give the other guy a point.
But the point still stands, the overall point of it still stands that what you're saying is that for karate, the Olympics should be doing the opposite of what it did for pretty much anything else that's gone through it.
I still think that they have enough of a backing body to be able to change it as need be. I feel like they're missing a very large group.
They very easily can change it, but it should they? And if they, and the reason I don't think they should, because as much as it would be cool to see a bit more representation for more traditional, more full contact karate, which it's not what people have been practicing, it's not honest to what the majority of the is. So if they're trying to represent the sport as a whole, what they've done is taken the most popular rules.
Okay, and since when are they actually trying to represent the sport as a whole?
Well, look outside, you just looked at judo, look at pretty much any other sport. What rules have they changed from those? What have they changed from football, what you call soccer? What have they changed from cycling, swimming? I don't watch it that much.
I mean, stuff's been changed for years just as time goes by. I'm saying the changes have been implemented because, hey, people like watching this, it's more entertaining. Why do you think that, using judo just as the example, why do you think the newaza was taken out of it?
Well, okay, here's the thing then. If people like it and it's more popular and more entertaining, then why is like karate more popular? Why isn't Kyokushin popular?
Because there's a lot... Okay.
Kyokushin is just as many famous practitioners. It's dominated in kickboxing tournaments. Goju Full Contact had a domination, had a very dominating figure go through kickboxing ranks into a very high level.
Okay, but using that example, you're using a very broad term such as point fighting versus Kyokushin, which is a singular style. If you're using knockdown in comparison to something that's more, a little bit more closed off, such as the WKF, which is 10%, how does that argument really stand up?
And I said Kyokushin and Goju, I was saying, but then you keep saying 10%, but again, that's 10% of these things are actually included. Then you have knockdown rules which don't even just include karate, literally kickboxing, just like you come to it. It's an open thing, it's not something that they're an organization of schools that practice for it. And there's not a high level of schools that practice for it. There are high levels of schools that practice for what these organizations have been implementing, and these are the popular organizations, hence it's what people know, hence it's risen through the ranks. But to have started becoming the popular thing, it had to have had something that caused its popularity more than the full contact or knockdown tournament. So if it's really more entertaining, I bid you again, why aren't there any knockdown organizations that are as big as the point organizations?
I really just can't see your argument of point. Because even if we're going away from judo and karate, when people think wrestling, what do they think of? They think WWE. Why do they think WWE? Because it's popular. Is WWE style wrestling incorporated in the Olympics?
No.
Okay, what's incorporated in the Olympics? It's not as popular really, but if you look into it, hey, this is something people can do. This is something that somewhat is entertaining.
Okay, but WWE isn't a sport. It's called wrestling, but it has not a lot to do with the sport of wrestling, so they can't implement it.
Okay, and what does we've talked about it just privately before. What about techniques that are incorporated in sport karate that are really just akin to flailing? What does that have to do with karate? That's the art changing from the art over towards the, just the sport. Hey, I can touch you quicker than you can touch me. So what's the difference in that? What does it have to do in comparison?
Because it's not choreographed and it's not decided who's going to win, and it's still kicks and punches, and it's literally determined and planned out.
But if that's the case, why even create a karate division in the first place?
Because they're in Japan and it's a very popular thing that Japan's known for, and they decided, hey, let's get some representation.
And they pushed for it for years. They just finally decide whenever it is held within Japan. I still think that they could pull from the full contact crowd and get a lot more people. Mainly because look at how many styles outside of, hey, just those 4 are included within full contact. It's open literally to any style. Hey, you fight in this format? Come and train with us. Come and fight with us. You pay your entry fee, you get to fight. If you look in the WKF, oh, do you do something different than this? Oh, you're not allowed unless you change over to this. And even then, where's your membership dues? Even then, how are you going to compete in this if we don't know your instructor's name? They're excluding a lot of people just by staying to that one major organization.
Well, you can't just let anyone into what is regarded as one of the top level sporting events anyway. You have to have some sort of name thing out for you, and guess what? That comes from organizations. That comes from being known through competitions that have already happened. And even then, you keep ignoring the point. You keep saying, well, they could, they can, and they could. But the point is, in the end, whether we like it or not, this is what karate is known for, and this is what the majority of karate is. The majority of karate is not knockdown. There are no big knockdown organizations that show it off and that have encompassed styles. It's an open thing when people do it. It's like, well, yeah, anyone comes in and pays their fee to come and fight, and like, yeah, you can be karate, you can be taekwondo, you can be Muay Thai, as long as you're gonna fight under this rule set. It's not even mostly known for being related to karate. It's being mostly known for being related to Kyokushin, which would be put as a different from karate anyway. So, even if they can, and even if it could be popular, it's not what karate is known for, and it would probably be unfair to the people who practice karate in this style, which is the majority of people who practice karate alive right now.
I still go back to the general public. If you go to someone, you say, hey, what is karate? What's the most popular thing for karate? Karate Kid. Look in the Karate Kid. Did they sit there and do the, hey, I'm going to sit here and jump and barely touch you? No. Why did they go for, they're hitting each other a little hard, they're going to cause a little bit of damage? Because, hey, people can recognize that, oh, that's what we're going to consider karate from now on. If you go to like a random person and you show them a video of sport karate, are they going to be able to look at it?
But you brought up the Karate Kid. They weren't doing knockdown. They were doing point tournament under these rule sets, and whenever it was more violent and more aggressive and someone actually got hurt, it was to show that the enemy was a bad person doing something
Okay,
wrong.
but if you show that to the general people, right? You show them a clip of knockdown karate after they've seen Karate Kid, and then show them a clip of someone that's sitting there point fighting, which one are they going to feel closer to saying, oh, that's karate? If you gave them the ultimatum of which one of these looks closer to karate to you.
Neither. They're not going to say either of those looks like the Karate Kid. Because it's very heavily choreographed, and there are lots of longer extension techniques. There's stuff to the head, there's more jump spinning kicks and stuff. You're not getting a lot of that in knockdown either. You're getting more close-up fighting and a lot of body shots focused with. Like, mostly it's Gyakuzuki into Chuden.
I still just can't get behind just including the WKF. And this is just as a karateka. I feel like they are excluding the majority of people.
You don't have to get behind that, just including the WKF, but in the end, including, even if they did a different organization, it would probably still be point rules, because that's what most karate is and what most karate are used to, and it would be more exclusive to put into a full contact rules. So as much as you could let anyone in and tell them to adapt, that means there's a lot less people who have experience, and then the people who do have experience have a lot higher advantage. And so it's basically a Kyokushin tournament, a couple of like Goju schools or your traditional Shotokan.
But like even if you look in the WKF, having gone to AAU tournaments before, right? You look in the WKF, how many people are going to these tournaments that don't even know the rules because they train to fight in a different style. They're having to do a full rundown before every single match of, hey, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, because we can't make up our minds. We're going to change this every other thing. You can look up the changes instituted by the World Karate Federation over the years. So they're already making these changes where people are having to adapt and overcome.
Hopping into the Olympics under a completely new rule set. Like, as much as they've made changes over the years, every organization makes changes. And I'm not arguing for the WKF. I'm saying that it's that knockdown at that point is more of a real representation or a better inclusion than knockdown, just for the majority of karate.
I really just can't get behind that. And it could just be a personal thing, and I apologize if it is a personal thing. It's just I've met more karateka over the years who are just fantastic martial artists who they don't even associate with the WKF. Why do they not do that? Because, hey, these guys are really closed off. To get in, you got to know somebody. You got to relearn the rules every single time. It's a lot easier for us to go, hey, we're going to go over here, do an open knockdown tournament such as like the Kyokushin Cup or go to the Yamamoto Cup and just show up, oh, well, we do this. All right, here's your little waiver, sign this. These are the rules. The rules haven't changed in 20 years.
Okay, but that's your issue, is you're viewing this as WKF versus knockdown. But it's not just WKF. That's the biggest one, and that's why they're working with the Olympics. But the majority of the large karate organizations pretty much practically the same rules, very similar rules. And they could have gone for the, is the IKF? I don't know.
I have no experience with the IKF.
So, anyway, the other big one, I'm assuming it's IKF because Taekwondo is IT. They could have gone for them, but it's, again, pretty much same rules, it's point to it. Does, like, it's not the WKF versus knockdown. Because they could go for pretty much any big organization. If they put every karate organization into a hat and pulled out a random name, it's like a 70-30 chance to pull out a point tournament similar to WKF.
But like, even if we're going into something that's really, really already large, so you've brought up the point of, hey, this is already established, right? Okay, if we're going off of that, and this is being held in Japan, right? What about the Kyokushin World Tournament? It's been held since 1975. Every 4 years they hold it. I think it's every 4 years.
Well, that's in the name, Kyokushin. That's mostly Kyokushin schools.
Okay, but even if you look into that, it's I think they're held by Kyokushin Kaiken. But even if you look into that, look at how popular it is in Japan.
Yeah.
Look at how televised it is. Look at how many adverts are put out. Hey, this is going on, and how many viewers they have. It's already a really big thing with the proper backers such as the Olympic Committee or TAFISA. TAFISA. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. TAFISA. I always pronounce it wrong. But if you look into it, they would have the big backer. They'd be able to change that into, hey, this is what would be entertaining for the people.
Okay, but as much as that'd be good for promoting knockdown rules in Kyokushin, it still wouldn't be a representation of karate. It'd be a representation of that Kyokushin tournament. And there are obviously, they'll probably be using the same or similar rules as most knockdown tournaments that aren't just Kyokushin, but it's still a Kyokushin organization. That's the majority Kyokushin schools, and even if you those, you're gonna have Kyokushin and Kudo and the other what's that one that you were gonna be fighting against? What style is that?
Yoshikai. Shidokan and Yoshikai?
Shidokan, Yoshikai. Those are the ones that are going to have advantage, and those aren't the majority of karate. Kyokushin is the biggest one, the one that's numbers could probably say they're getting to the levels of Shotokan and Shorin Ryu and those ones that are recognized. And even then, it's probably nowhere near as high as Shotokan. And that's just one style, really. And then you have other styles where still probably half of their school practice point, and then probably over half, like 78% of the schools practice that, and then there's a few traditional schools that would go into Shotokan and Kyokushin tournament. because they don't have their own tournaments, because that's not what the organization does. Because even if you go into the Shotokan bodies and the dojo bodies, they're doing point tournaments under the same similar rule set.
Okay, and we talked about how it put everyone else at a disadvantage for having to switch over, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how often are the Olympics held?
4 years.
Okay, 4 years. That's 4 years of prep time. In, for example, Japan, Shodan is considered, hey, you know enough of the basics, now you can actually start learning, right? Shodan doesn't really take that long to get. I think average is between 3 to 5 years. So you can train someone from never training before up to being considered quote-unquote proficient. If you have enough time to train them from nothing to proficient, I believe you also have enough time to switch over from, hey, we've been point fighting, we're going to switch over to this. You still have enough time.
You inspire that change, because like us, the Olympics aren't that big, and there's tournaments, the majority of tournaments, the ones that pay, the ones that are recognized, the ones that people have trophies in, the ones that people have experienced in, haven't been this rule set. So even if they have time to switch over, most of them are just going to try and stick with their tournaments, and they're not going to be happy about it, and they're the majority of what it is. And then even if you have time to train them up to Shodan in a full contact style, that's still the people that were already at that level, because that's what they were training for, still have the advantage because they've trained way long in full contact.
I still just can't get behind it. Because how many quote unquote point fighting styles do you see? How many quote unquote point fighting schools do you see that just can't compete in WKF tournaments? There's lots of really talented point fighters that they don't even touch the WKF. They don't touch them with a 10-foot pole. Because there's a lot of politics within it.
WKF versus knockdown. Like again, it could be any organization, and they still have the same rule sets. If you put every organization in a hat, you have a 70% chance, probably higher, of pulling out something that has pretty much the same rule set. So as much as the WKF might be bad and not as inclusive, it's the Olympics. It's not everyone's anyway. People are excluded because it's for like meant to be the highest tier, and there's a bunch of politics usually because there isn't any martial law. And even if you pull out something, a completely different organization, they'd have their own politics, their own bullshit going on behind the scenes. Because you know how much shit goes on in every sport, in every high-level sporting thing, how much fucked up shit goes on behind the scenes. Like, bro, just if you want to talk about fucked up shit goes on in the Olympics, look at gymnastics and how much shit is going on behind there.
And that's fair, but I still go back to the point of the WKF including that few amount. They're not very accepting of anything new going into it. And you said earlier, if you said earlier, you're talking about kata's being incorporated. Kata's not like anything else that's already there. Why not just have an event for both? Because then you'd have something different than anything that's already in there, and you could see, hey, what do the people like watching more? What seems more popular?
Because it's one sport, you can't have kata, sport, point kumite, and knockdown kumite. That's going to take too much time.
But they've already included two. So where does the line become? Where does the line become apparent?
Well, considering most of their stuff takes place over a weekend, probably with two parts for the same event. It's like how the races have like a set amount of tracks.
I still think it could be done. And I would love to see it done, and I don't believe I'm going to see it in my lifetime.
It couldn't.
But I'd like to advocate for it as much as possible.
I think even then, why advocate? Why bother? Because again, the Olympics isn't the big thing, and they're better. No one who cares about martial arts look at the Olympics and say, "This is what martial arts is."
Because look, everyone.
To shit.
Because you've heard the quote, "History repeats itself." Think of how popular the Olympics once were.
Yeah.
If they get brought back to that.
It can come back on its own. It doesn't need the Olympics.
I mean, if it comes back to its popularity and, full contact karate helps it get to that point, then hey, maybe you'll bring full contact karate back to what it needs to be.
I don't think full contact karate would bring the Olympics into a higher popularity because of how niche martial
Well, it's not going to be
arts are.
just full contact karate. Like I can't I can't say it'll be just full contact karate. It'll take many things to get back to what it needs to be. But if like Kyokushin knockdown rules are already in there, then the general public will know about them more, which in turn will increase the popularity of knockdown rules. You may see more styles start to incorporate them. You may see more systems start to incorporate them. You may see a gradual transition over towards such. Because going back to judo, if you look at how many systems, how many styles of judo started sitting there doing, hey, this is what we're going to change for the Olympics, versus how many stayed to what they were already doing. It was a gradual transition.
And again, that's great, and that's what it could possibly do if they put it in, and if it helped it get popular, if the Olympics had a research, and if people cared about what the Olympics said about martial arts, and then if the general public decided to start training martial arts, and then if those people decided to start opening their own gyms and training under these rule sets for competing in this, if it continued to become an event because of popular. Big ifs, but right now what they don't have is ifs. What they have is, this is what a lot of karate does, and people want karate as an event, and so if the majority does this, then let's just get the biggest organization that does it.
Okay, but that's still just the majority of that organization and people who train similar styles sitting there watching that. How do you draw in people? Because you've worked in advertising before. If you're sitting there trying to advertise a product, you want it to look like something different than what's already out there, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to sit there and make it look as similar as you can if you can avoid that issue, right?
The Olympics isn't selling karate. The Olympics is selling the Olympics. Karate is selling itself, and it's up to them to determine how it's displayed differently. And what they have is a different event. What they have is kata. What they have is arguably more refined technique and less focus on kicking, with a slightly variant rule set. And the majority of people aren't even going to be paying attention to those. What it's going to sell itself on is the good look, which is the kata part. And again, so you can't just say, well, karate should be this because it will make it look better. Because it's not up to the Olympics to make karate look good. It's up to the Olympics to put this event on.
But I still just think like the general people would get more enjoyment out of watching it.
You say that, bro, but like that's a specific type of person that enjoys violence on that level.
Over the years, we brought several friends who sit there and they train WKF style fighting. We brought them over to watching full contact events, and they've fallen in love with it.
Yeah.
It's different than what they're used to. If it's different than what people used to, then they're more open to receiving it.
Again, yeah, but I'm still saying, again, I never said you can't bring people over to like me. I said it's a specific person that likes it. Because look at how many people go to, well, we've done this a lot. We've had these online forums where people have come on and they've looked at schools and they've chosen where to go, and we've recommended them places and helped them find places. How many of them have actually ended up going to the full contact place and wanting the big sort of hard violent stuff that you and me enjoy and Masa enjoys, as opposed to Taekwondo and stuff? Because there were way more Taekwondo people on there, and barely any of them come into our conversation when we were talking about the more aggressive stuff, and a lot of them were very, don't like the violent side of martial arts. And if that's the majority in martial arts forum, how do you think it is in the general public?
Okay, and how many people do you believe that are watching the Olympics currently are going to take up a specific sport that they're watching within the Olympics? I'm speaking purely as an entertainment aspect.
Yeah, but as an entertainment aspect, if something is too aggressive for you, then why are you going to watch it? If you're looking at it and you're like, it's painful, I don't like it, then you're not going to watch it.
So you honestly feel that the vast majority of people would enjoy something less violent to watch?
Yeah, I think so.
I really disagree with that.
Well then, again, let's just look at some general things. Martial arts are some of the least popular sports. Even UFC and stuff like that, it's not as big as football or basketball or something. It's still a very niche hobby as a whole.
Okay, but you just said football, right? you're referring to soccer, but if I go into the most popular sport in my area, which is American football, right? The equivalent of you guys rugby, right?
Yeah.
You have two
So
variants.
that's where that's-
Yeah, but we pretty much have two variants. You have football, and then you have flag football, which is more popular for people to watch. Regular football. Why? Because they don't want to watch people run around and just grab flags. It's not as entertaining to them. It has a more violent aspect, which is what they enjoy.
But they're still not in heavy amounts of danger. They're not getting massive. The majority of the time, they're not getting bloodied up and stuff. They got protected gear.
Yeah, but they're still getting massive concussions.
They're getting concussions. That's not visible violence. That's long-term effects that are
They're getting
hurting their brain.
visible violence. Look at how many games you see players get pulled off in stretchers. So they know people are getting hurt. You see a lot of people blowing their own knees out. You see a lot of people hyperextending their arms whenever they'll go to post out when they fall.
So I
Okay.
think what Luca is getting at is that when you're wearing all that gear, you can see the damage. Like if you were wearing gear, you probably wouldn't see, these cat as clearly. It's a form of censorship in a way.
And even beyond that, even if the full contact version of that sport is more popular than the light contact version, that's probably because the people who enjoy watching that sport and probably have played it or have watched a lot of it, played games related like video games and stuff or something, grew up watching it, are used to that. People who don't like it would probably enjoy the light contact version more, and how many people really enjoy it and go out there and watch it. I know over there it's kind of big in a lot of states, but there's still a large amount of people that don't enjoy it.
I mean, but the whole thing is if you don't enjoy something, then you don't have to watch it. I hate watching golf and baseball and basketball, the majority of the sports, so I just don't watch them.
Yeah, but no, that's what but the point is, what Lowe's saying is that if it was full contact karate in the Olympics, it would probably bring more people into watching it and bring more people into doing
think it
full
would-
contact.
I think
saying-
they bring a different demographic into watching the Olympics.
Cause look at
Bring the general public who watch the Olympics into full contact. Full contact to bring more people to the Olympics in terms of watching it, but I don't think the Olympics is going to bring that many people into full contact because it's different demographics that watch the Olympics and care about karate in that level.
Okay, but if people are
There
just
might be a little
if you're thinking of if you're thinking, example, imagine a little old lady or a little old man sitting there scrolling through the channel, right? Or just a random guy, middle-aged man sitting there scrolling through the channel, and say the random middle-aged man scrolls and he sees someone who's sitting there barely tapping each other, but it's in a UFC setting, right? So it's cage fighting, but they're just barely touching each other. Okay. And then he scrolls another channel, one down, and he sees these guys are fully hitting each other, they're fully slamming each other. Which one has more of an attention grabber?
Well, it depends which one he's more interested in, because if he doesn't like aggression, then he's not going to want to watch people slam each other.
If he's a little old man, he's watching golf.
Yeah,
I
he's not watching people club each other with the golf bats. He's watching regular golf.
I'll have you know, my late grandfather really enjoyed the UFC.
Your late grandfather also had 30 fucking rifles in his house.
This is not that grandfather.
Yeah, that's not. Either way, I feel like your family is an exception to the rules in general.
But no, I feel like more people would be interested in that, because sure, there's some people who aren't into the violence, but there's a lot of people who really are. They're into saying, hey, this is a contest of your strength. This is a contest of, hey, how can you outperform them? There's actual repercussions to mistakes that you make.
The stuff that's already in there is some of the least popular events, probably less than half the people that care about cycling or swimming or the sprint are caring about judo or something like there's a reason these things aren't popular. It's because they're not as appealing to the general public, because they're more aggressive. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying them, because people enjoy them. We all probably would like to partake in events where people hit each other rather hard. However, that's not the majority of people, so it pulling a large amount of new people in and creating a resurface of full contact karate through a Kyokushin organization, which is mostly Kyokushin focused, and half the people who already do karate aren't going to even know how to start competing. I don't see it happening. I don't see it changing the majority face of karate if they put Kyokushin as the Olympic.
I mean, you never know who it might influence, though. I mean, apparently there was a mobster who got really influenced by the Green Hornet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes sense because that's about people pretending to be mobsters and stuff.
I mean, like if you change things just to seem like, oh, it's not as there's not as many repercussions. I mean, you brought up cycling. What if they put like safety wheels, you know, like for a child learning to ride a bike on the bikes? They wouldn't be as interesting for different reasons at that point. They may have some comedic value, but it would still change it as a whole.
Okay, but again, even if they put it into the Olympics aren't that popular, and martial arts in the Olympics aren't that popular. No one can, unless you're already in the martial arts scene, unless you're already, say you're already a high-level judoka, then you can probably name a couple of Olympic judokas. You can probably name a good few of them. Some winners, some silver medalists, some bronze medalists, even some people that you just like or have met in your life while practicing judo. The majority of public won't be able to name it. Even the people that can name like 10, 15 high-level UFC fighters won't be able to name a single Olympic judoka. And that's because the stuff that's popular is what's popular. And they're not, the Olympics is never going to become the face of martial arts and changing martial arts. And if something like as popular as the UFC still isn't going to influence a massive resurgence of martial arts, then why is the Olympics going to influence a resurgence of full contact karate?
I still just think it would be more popular, also due to the fact of if you have two teenagers sitting there talking and one say, hey dude, come over here and look at this, what are they more likely to almost show off in a sense to their friends? Someone sitting there point fighting, or someone getting knocked out within like a knockdown tournament? It's something that's more of, oh wow, it's more of a shock factor.
We're in our group chats with Beast and Griff and everyone else who's come on these streams. What do we normally show? We show people
Memes.
who are cringe, show people who are messing up, people who are doing dumb shit and look bad. We don't tend to be like, yo, these guys are so awesome, look at how cool this fighting is. We say, yo, this was fucking dumb, let's laugh at it. So I think people are probably more likely to show
knockdown,
like, these
I get what you're saying, knockdown tournament in a clown costume.
knockdown tournament, but they have to dress up like your costume of Lars, with your deer head and your Christmas wrapping.
Alright. So after this match, I'm going to have to run and grab something really quick, but it shouldn't take more than a minute.
Okay, so that's 10 minutes.
Nah, I just got to run and grab something for the dog real quick.
For a dog, okay, so 20 minutes.
Alright, ass.
You can't tell me I'm wrong, bro.
I'm going to be as quick as possible. Who am I playing as? Oh, I'm playing as her.
God fucking damn it, why?
Because she works.
Time to kung fu. Yeah, that's about how effective I figured Jinyi would be.
I love my little ballerina spin.
Damn.
How is that ninjutsu?
I mean, they're doing a bunch of shit that doesn't work and they're holding a katana. It's pretty much ninjutsu.
It is a tanto.
Yeah, well, the majority of the general public don't know.
I told you the argument I had, well, not the discussion I had the other day, right?
Which one?
In a knife forum, someone was asking if anyone had any swords for sale, right?
Yeah, you said.
And the guy said, oh, I have this sword for sale. You see, traditionally the samurai had 3 swords. The katana, the wakizashi, and the bushido.
Bushido.
Yeah. And it was just like a little tanto.
Some people fucking know.
I hate
I
that.
bet you someone that shit.
Oh,
At
like,
least
I
you
explained
knew
it. Like, I explained it, and he's like, oh, well, I don't really know about that, and I just sent a screenshot. He's like, oh, thank you.
Wakazashi now because it's a war zone. But that and Kodachi.
Yeah. I feel like the Naginata's gotten really popular over the years.
Which one's the Naginata again? Is that the polearm?
Yes and no. Well, yeah. We'll say yeah.
The one that's got like the purple length handle and then quadruple
Think,
length blade?
think like long stick with long blade.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I was thinking of a Nuntibo there for a second, which they're still not popular. I wish they were, because they're an awesome weapon. It's got Manjisai on it.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know that one. Didn't they have that in Karate Kid?
Yes, actually. It's called Nuntibo. Alright, I will be back really soon.
Well, while you're being back, Masa, think of a conversation topic for our viewers. And I get dead silence.
I don't know what topic.
Anything and everything.
I can tell you about the time someone came in and tried to storm my dojo.
Go for it. We were gonna talk about dojo storing with this topic.
So, you know, we're just in class, and this kid
Was
comes
this Muay
in.
Thai?
No. This was at the Kempo dojo.
Nice.
And so we're in class, and this kid comes in. He's probably like 17-ish, you know. Not super young, but also not at all old.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I want to challenge the master of the dojo. And a master of the dojo was there, but he's very much a pacifist. And it was just kind of like, who are you kind of thing. You know, and all of a sudden all of us hear that because that's not something that happens, like, ever. And so, you know, we're all trying to overhear while looking like we're not, you know, ignoring class. And, you know, we're trying to catch little things of what's going on. And
Yeah.
it's like, why is this kid trying to challenge, you know, a 5th degree black belt? Like, that's just not a good idea, especially, like, if you saw the master of the dojo, like, he is freaking ripped. Like, he does rucksack and, what are those, the Spartan races for fun. Like, they're nothing. Like, this guy, you don't want to mess with him, regardless of whether he knows martial arts or not. Huh?
That wasn't to do with the gold trim then.
No, that's the Grandmaster. No.
The Grandmaster with his, like, Santa Claus gi with the gold trim.
Yeah, Grandmasters
You really-
are eccentric. Well, there's the whole joke about, like, for every stripe you get on your black belt, you gain 5 pounds.
I remember because his gi was, like, bright red and then it had, like, trim on it and it just, like, shiny and looked like tinfoil.
Yeah, he's eccentric. We are all aware of this.
He's...
But anyway, Grandmaster was not there because he doesn't live anywhere near there.
Right.
So obviously he's not there. But, you know, so we kind of hear, you know, obviously Master of the Dojo has no intention of fighting this kid. Because, what the hell? And so, you know, it's just kind of going back and forth and back and forth. And finally, when we get the details, apparently this kid goes to some ninjutsu school, and he's a fire belt. And we're all just like, what the actual fuck does that even mean? Like, a fire belt?
A fire belt. Now that's...
Yeah.
This dude's about to pull some fucking
Yeah.
Naruto burning hand jutsu bullshit.
Yeah, for real. And apparently it's a school that, like, one of the the senseis know someone at. Like, our sensei knows another sensei at that school.
Okay.
And so it turns out that kid went to, like, that school for, like, a week. But it's been months since he's been there.
Oh god.
And he just tried to... And it's just like, what on earth? Like... It was just, like, the most bizarre thing I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, my school's never got storming, never got dojo storms.
I mean, it wasn't much of a storm, but it was just like someone came in and tried to challenge him, and it was like, what are you on?
I mean, you know, trying to come up and prove their shit. That dojo storming video we watched recently was fairly entertaining.
I probably wasn't there.
I sent it into the group chat. I think you commented on it. The dude, people thought he was a kid, but he was like 34, and he practiced JKD, and he came along to a Wing Chun master's dojo with an ex-student of the master, and basically spent like an hour sulking and throwing a tantrum, and then at the end of the class started telling the dude he was doing it wrong and leaving himself open, and so the master pulled him up and said, okay, show me. And then the dude started getting super aggressive, and in the end, but they were saying that they were gonna fight, and then he was like, "No, I can't fight you. I don't have gloves." And the master was like, "Okay, get this kid some gloves." And then he put his head when you walk up to someone, you like lean your head against them because you think they're tough, and then he got slapped around the head, hit a few times, put on the floor, hit a few more times. The master picked him up. And then he tried to kick the master in the head, and the master just grabbed his leg and threw him into a fucking metal shelf.
I do not believe I've seen this.
Hang on, I'm gonna send it to you. We can get your live reaction on the stream after this match.
Oh god, okay. It sounds entertaining, though.
Yeah, and people were like, damn, this kid's really challenging the master. He was a 34-year-old JKD practitioner. But the JKD guys aren't blaming him, and it's become a whole thing of like, well, they didn't really show any technique or anything, so it just didn't look good for anyone. Well, like, the dude got his ass beat. He challenged
for
the
real.
15-year-old master from, like, I think he's from Brooklyn, and it's
Oh.
he want to show him why you don't do that.
I mean, you generally don't mess with people from Brooklyn anyway.
Yeah, especially Wing Chun masters, apparently.
Yeah. But at my
I hast returned.
welcome back.
It wasn't too long, was it?
No.
Dojo storming?
This fire belt tried to challenge the master of the dojo at my hippo place.
Ooh.
But anyway, at my current gym, my coach showed me a video he had, or someone had taken, of this drunk lady who came into the gym at one point and tried to fight with him.
Did he, like, teep her in the face?
No, he just like, hey, we're not fighting, like, you know, you clearly are intoxicated, but at least she remembered to take her shoes off, so there was that.
So, like, had she been there before, or?
No, it's just some random drunk lady who went into the Muay Thai gym and just decided to try to challenge him. And I mean, like, the thing is, like, a lot of these teachers or heads of gym, they're not gonna be like, yeah, fight me. They're gonna be like, okay, what's going on here? Like, I'm not just gonna fight you, random person. Like,
Well, I don't
There has-
know.
Yeah.
As much as very knowledgeable, they're not in the shape to start fighting random people. Even though a 17-year-old fire belt in ninjutsu probably wouldn't have been in much trouble even if you're.
oh no, you know, I mean, Master Random, he is ripped. He's absolutely in fighting position.
No, I didn't mean you were mad. I just meant.
Oh.
I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
go and challenge their sensei, especially if you're just like a karate kempo school. They're probably an older dude.
I mean, there's definitely that, but it's also like they tend to have like they're not hotheads for the most part. Like if you're running a successful
That's-
school, it's because you're not that much of a hothead where you can be like, all machismo and be like, yeah, fight me, bro. Like a lot of them are gonna, be like, okay, why is this happening? Like, did I do something? Is there something wrong with them?
And they'll be overly apologetic most of the time.
Yeah, like that's the thing, It's
That actually,
not just-
the discussion that you guys just had,
Mhm.
that actually raises a really interesting thing that I've thought of before. And we've actually had this discussion with Thinking Kojiku. It's funny how people outside of martial arts can look at someone who's in really good shape and think to themselves, I bet he could mess me up. And us as martial artists can look at someone who could have a beer belly and look in the worst shape of their lives, but know them and think to yourselves, I know he could kill me. It's an interesting thing to think about. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, but at the same time, we know someone who's like 300 pounds, bro, and we know for sure they ain't going. They got the biggest beard.
Hey.
They don't shave. They got 300 pounds.
You,
they ain't going.
You know, I have a
I'm not
coach.
going
You
against someone who's 300 pounds.
you know, I have a coach who is also 300 pounds, Luca. So that's the other end of that coin.
Yeah, no, I'm saying in general, sure, but we know someone who fits everything you were just talking about that we could probably put on the floor in like half a second.
Just like we had when we were training Kinkojiku one day, Guru Gould was coming in to do a seminar afterwards, right? So people were welcome to come in and they were going to train, and you were allowed just to have a good time. But he always had like an age requirement you had to be in just to train in there, because he says, I'm not teaching fighting, I'm teaching this is how you kill someone with a knife. So it's some interesting stuff. But one of our students, their father was coming to pick them up, and their father was just a fireman. He works as a fireman. He's a little volunteer fireman, and he manages a golf course. So he steps in there, and he's in decent shape. He used to be a bodybuilder. And Guru just kind of walks through the door. He's wearing just a t-shirt, jeans, sandals with his jeans, and a baseball cap. He walks in. He just looks like an older man. He's not holding any martial arts equipment. He just kind of walks in, and the guy that I'm talking to, he's picking up his son. He just kind of stops mid-sentence, and Guru walks by, doesn't say anything, just kind of walks in, gets ready like he usually does, and the man immediately stops, changes subjects. He's like, "Who is that?" I said, "Oh, that's Guru Gould." He says, "Okay, I'm just making sure." Why? He said, "I get the feeling that he could kill me." And it's just something to think about, because this man has never really trained martial arts, but he's sitting there looking at this man who is not in the best shape of his life, but he just gets the feeling, I think he could kill me. So it kind of brings up that conversation point.
Yeah. We get people come in that are in really great shape, like better than half the people who train consistently. Definitely better shape than me. Well built, or really flexible and stuff. And they can't punch for shit, bro.
Yeah.
Can't throw, can't block, like they have no idea. Which obviously you're not going to expect someone who's never trained to have an idea. There are some people you see and you're like, have you never seen someone get hit in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about, nonetheless. It's like I have a lot of instructors who have a little bit of a belly from, old age, because as you get older, it's harder to lose that. And you look at them and you think to yourself, they could kill me. And then the general public, you kind of think you sit there and you contemplate, I wonder what other people see whenever they see him, because they don't know them personally.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now that Moss is lost, Moss, I sent you that video with a timestamp. Time to get your live reaction.
It's like my Kinkojiku instructor is really my only exception to that, of my coaches. Because he's older, but he doesn't have really a belly. He's 6'2" and in good shape.
Well, we're about to get Moss's live reaction to the dojo storming, the JKD one.
Oh, that video.
Yeah, she's never seen it. Oh. I don't know if she's actually going to talk while she's watching it, or give us thoughts afterwards.
I'll have my mic on as I'm watching it.
Okay. Give us updates and thoughts.
Okay.
Good read. I love that little pit bull that when I walk in on this game.
I wish the pit bull was like a item you could use for a weapon. Just throw the dog at someone.
Rude.
I think, well, you can't throw it, you make it charge in on people. Just that well.
You're just beating up Waldo.
Yup. Beating up Waldo.
I mean, that's an interesting way to think about it.
I don't have the sound on, so I didn't hear the conversation. But the body language kind of said enough.
Okay, that's something that I highly dislike.
What?
The ergonomics of the cane that you have on your belt.
I have a cane on my belt?
Yeah. Do you not see it?
You didn't know that?
No. Oh, yeah, there it is. That's not a cane, that's an axe, bro.
Really?
Tomahawk, yeah.
It doesn't look like a blade. It just looks like a pair of brass knuckles on a cane stick.
No, yeah, it's more noticeable with different costumes. It's got a weird color scheme.
I honestly believe these are the two most hated characters within Tekken.
Quite possibly. No, I think Noctis is pretty hated.
That is entirely fair.
Back to Waldo getting beaten up. You know it's called Where's Nevio here? Waldo's the bad guy.
What?
What?
You know Where's Waldo? It's called Where's Waldo.
He's a bad guy over there?
Waldo is the villain, and it's called Where's Wally. The person you look for is Wally.
And he's bad.
Yeah.
Okay then. That's weird.
Yeah, there was like a whole TV series and everything. He was like the villain.
That's my childhood.
I liked I Spy better, personally.
You're like, which
Did you ever
guy?
play the I Spy computer game?
I didn't know they had a computer game. I just
Yes. They had a constantly updating computer game.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, like it was just random pictures where you had to find set items before you could move on to the next level.
Yeah, we played it in the car on road trips.
No, like this is Jeez, I can remember when I was still going to I didn't want to out the school, but when I was still going to a school before I started being homeschooled when I was younger, they had a computer in the library, and that was like the only game they had on it. Everything else was just like academic purposes, and they figured, you know, I Spy is something good for kids.
We had way more interesting stuff on our computers, bro.
Well, like each homeroom actually had their own computer, but that was the one in the library. That's what it had on it. We actually had a bowling game. We had a bowling game with like, it was in the north. There was like a polar bear and penguins. It was a bowling game.
We had Minecraft. We had GTA Vice City.
How do
We had Soul Cube. We had.
I'm still caught up. Why do you have GTA in a classroom?
Yeah, for real.
Get it in on USB sticks and trading it for bags of crisps and stuff. Anyway, we had Assault Cube, we had GTA Vice City, we had Minecraft, we had, there was this video game where you were like humanoid rabbit ninjas and you could do parkour and pick up katanas and do like decapitating of rabbits.
What the
And we had
fuck?
Tron.
Dude, we had like Rita Rabbit and Treasure Map Store.
I'm gonna look up that game because that's gonna bother me.
What, this
Which-
ninja decapitating one?
No, the bowling game.
Oh.
Polar Bowler, that's what it's called.
Overgrowth, that was the rabbit game.
Like you had different characters who would they would sit in like a different raft and you'd pull them back in the slingshot, but you were bowling, you had to hit all the pins.
Interesting.
I'm gonna take a screenshot of that and I may end up downloading it because that's my childhood.
Masa, how do you
Yeah?
play? Yeah.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
What do you think of that? Do you want to go and challenge and storm a JoJo now?
No. Did my Tekken freeze?
Possibly.
Well, I'm hitting the A button.
If not reacting.
Yeah, no, it's frozen.
Oh damn.
You got a broke controller.
You done broke your game.
Maybe. Maybe the first time. Oh, no.
Was it not? Wasn't it? What was it?
Yeah, it's just frozen. Alright, I'll be back, I guess.
Aw.
Sorry.
See, at least I left for a dog. You're just leaving because your computer doesn't work.
I mean, my computer works. It's the game that's frozen.
No, I blame
That's
the
fair.
I blame the PC. I blame the builder, and you can tell him I said that.
What the hell?
Already been. They kicked me out for inappropriateness.
Also, I'm the one who built it.
Oh, well then I apologize. I thought that was a jab at your better half, not yourself.
No, that's why I had to clarify.
I apologize.
See, now, since he doesn't think women can build PCs, which in reality your PC's broken, so. But beside the point.
It has been working fine.
Ooh. My better half arrived at her destination.
That's good.
Yeah. I know she was driving at a very rough location, so she said she was gonna. Who are you playing as? Oh, she said that she was gonna send me an update whenever she gets there. She's nice like that. Sorry. I don't want to have any damage dealt.
Ah, damn, you are having no fucking fucks right now, huh?
Is he ever?
I mean, sometimes there's a little leeway to kick his ass.
I mean, to be fair, the whole like premise behind this character is she's trying to steal Yoshimitsu's sword.
That's fair, that's fair.
Okay, I don't know what's up with my computer. I'll be back.
You gonna restart it?
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Don't be too long now.
So here's an interesting thought.
No.
No, well, I mean, it's nothing bad. You've played Call of Duty. You've never shot in a gun, but you played Call of Duty.
Yeah.
What do you think is a good gun for home defense? I want to get your opinion since you've never actually shot in a firearm.
Depends on whom you're living in.
Just like think general, like sheetrock walls, etc.
Well, you're gonna want something that's not gonna shoot through the wall to hit anyone on the other sides, though. Probably a shotgun with some birdshot.
Yep. You've been around me enough. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Nah, I'm kidding. You want an LMG. You want to be.
No, like I talk to a lot of people who like sit there and they'll buy like 9 mils or 45s or 40s or 380s. thinking, you know what, this is good for home defense, which it is if you're like in an open place, but I mean, you also have to worry about overshooting your target, and you know what happens if you miss. What if you hit a wall?
I know exactly what you need, actually.
Baseball bat.
I
Oh, then you have a club. We have a friend that we train with who like really he just like absolutely hates High Point.
Mm-hmm.
He hates Springfield also, but like he hates High Point with a passion. And for Christmas, we're all putting our money together and we're gonna buy him a High Point.
That's hilarious.
Like when we're off live, I'll have to explain what he told us to tell everyone if he's ever shot by a High Point and killed.
That's dark.
No, like that's his hate for High Point. He like we are each like under promise to him, if he ever gets shot by a High Point and dies at his funeral, we have to lie to everyone and tell him he was killed by something else.
Here's a question then. Other than firearms, what do you think is the best weapon?
Baseball bat.
Why a baseball bat?
Simplicity. You can give a bat to somebody. You can give a bat to somebody and say, "Hey, swing it hard," or just hand it to them, and they know, "Hey, I hit somebody with this and it hurts."
I know something that's also simple. Same concept, swing it hard, except it probably hurts a little more.
Hammer.
Hammer.
And most homes have a hammer.
And also you can't block a hit. Like with a bat, you can move in and stuff the shot. With a hammer, if you move in, it's still going to swing over. Even if they drop it, you probably get a concussion.
That's just hard to deal with. It really is.
And if they switch it over, if they get the hammer that has the nail in, so drag pull out nails,
The claw.
you're fucked. And then if you guys start wrestling and they know how to oil check, there's literal death, bro.
Oh, I love it. Wow.
But I would not be scared of many things in a violent encounter. If someone had a hammer, I would not be happy.
I wouldn't either. I feel like you could close distance, but you're sacrificing a lot of your body. Like, you're still going to get hurt. It's like, you've heard with knives, if you're in a knife fight, you're going to get cut. It's like with a hammer, you're going to get hurt. It's just how hurt you get if you're able to finish them off before you give out.
Like, I don't think you can leave a hammer fight without a concussion and a little bit of cracked bone.
Oh, like, I'll go ahead and tell you, my game plan would be to sacrifice an arm. That's the only thing I know that I could do.
Yeah, unless if you're wearing maybe a jacket, you could probably stuff it, like, use it as like a tightening grip thing, bind it, if you're fucking lucky.
Yeah. You know what's actually really useful?
What?
And I know that sometimes they get flack, but a lot of people like them for good reason. An ass baton.
An ass baton.
Asp. A-S-P.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
The extendable batons.
Yeah, police batons.
Yeah, like they're useful. I mean, the concept's good. I do want to get me one of those Stinger tactical whips and review it on the channel.
Definitely. Well, the reason people don't like batons, especially the extendable ones, is they feel there's not a lot of options for not doing heavy damage, and they don't agree or believe in the idea of using it in locks.
So, like, for heavy damage, I could definitely agree with that. I really can. For that same argument could be used for hammer, like we talked about. I think an Aspeton would be able to deal less damage than a hammer if you had to, because you'd be working your Wittix, not your Lobtix. So you just tap and attack.
It's way easier to not fuck someone up with a baton than it is with a hammer.
Yeah. But that also, the whole reason that the whole reason you slash through with a baton, right?
Mm.
They're collapsible, right? So like they're going to collapse in on themselves. If you hit and you pull back, the momentum coming back can actually collapse itself in on itself.
I mean, also you cut through so you can do big damage. That's like the whole point of using sticks in general. Are you good? Did you cut out?
I'm fine. Someone brought me food.
Oh god, the sumo guy.
Yeah. It's like with an baton, if you go to retract on your strike like you're throwing a Widdick, there's actually a chance of it's closing in on itself, and then you have to deploy the baton again. You know? And it's the same thing with grappling. If you go to apply force on it and it goes to push towards the handle, it could close in on itself again, so you'd lose a lot of the effectiveness with it.
Do you know what doesn't do as heavy damage and doesn't collapse in on itself and gives you better grappling options?
What?
Nunchuk. Nunchucks.
Fair.
The only issue is there's not as many options for doing that much big damage. Because you can swing them hard, but they're not just...
You know what I would honestly say is a better option than that? If we're going like old school Kobudo? Sai.
Sai good. You know they do actually have collapsible Sai now.
Really?
Yeah.
After this, link them to me. I may have to order me a set, because that actually just sounds cool.
We can do a
I'm
review.
gonna need my invite again.
Yeah, once I'm done getting murdered by this sumo guy, you will have an invite.
He's just hard to fight.
Well, that's because he's fucking obese. It's like we were saying, bro, if they got a beer gut, they can probably kill you. Actually, that's a interesting. There's this whole thing about like
How
in the martial arts community about like bodybuilders, they get too stiff and they can't fight as well. What do you think about that?
Juji Mufu.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not really stiff. He's very flexible.
Yeah, he's like really good at tricking and stuff.
Yeah, so I think like there's a direct reasoning to kind of disagree with that right there.
Yeah. And like I think it's probably a lot easier once you've been invited to do aerobics training than it is to do like to implement some sort of movement training while you're building muscle than it is to just build muscle straight. Like I don't think it's that difficult. Who has muscle very easily working themselves into having that sort of movement. Because stiffness is an issue, that's no lie. Like, if
I'll join and then leave.
Masa joined and left.
No, I'm here.
It kicked you out of the thing.
Out of what?
Game.
Oh.
Anyway, you should be able to join. Hey, Lo, do me a favor, play the Aiki guy.
Something very interesting.
Hmm?
Something very interesting.
What is?
So it's bacon, right? It's like breakfast bacon.
Mm.
And you know pancake mix?
Yeah.
They made a pancake around a strip of bacon.
So you're having bacon pancakes.
Yes. And it's actually really good.
It's a very normal thing, my guy. You're American.
Not really.
First time having it.
It became very popular because of Adventure Time. There's a whole song about it.
Oh yes, I am well aware.
I heard the song, I've never had it before. And now I can see why this is a thing.
When I make bacon pancakes, I don't put it in the pancake. I take the bacon, I cover it in brown sugar, and I bake it, and then I lay the syrup and just put like pancake. It's that like free.
First I make some
That sounds
bacon
like
and I put it in a...
100 calories right there.
That sounds like a good
Yes.
weekend.
That sounds like a good old day, bro. I'm not
Yeah.
getting beat in my keto cup. Masa, I think you were gonna say something before I shouted randomly.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that Rob has an improv show, so I'm gonna have to go in probably like 10-15 minutes.
That's fine. We've been going a while. It's like 3 a.m. here. I think it's probably a nice time to put it.
Oh, dang.
Ah, darn, bro. I guess I am losing to a damn Aikido cup. That's like, I was about to say about his striking ability, even though he's an Aikido practitioner. Aikido has a philosophy, at least in some schools, that whenever you're practicing striking to attack, you're practicing the attack and the defense, like when you're doing it back and forth. And a lot of arts say something similar. What do you think about that?
Defend when attacking, attack when defending.
The fuck was that?
That's me eating pancake trying to quote something.
What are you quoting?
Kind of sounds like every block is a strike, every strike is a block.
Pretty much. That deals a lot of damage.
He does do a lot of damage. His key is like interesting. Yeah, no, I feel like that's fine in theory, but once you
How
actually
did you
into
get beat
the
by an
practice,
Aikido
like,
practitioner?
He's an Aikido co with literal magic.
And you're a racist Kempo instructor with literal magic.
No, I'll blame it on the fact that he also does Kyokushin.
Oh, so now you're bringing Kyokushin into it.
I mean, you're insistent on defending Kyokushin. You have cussed it out so many times and once agreed that it's possibly been worse for the karate community than Point Shotokan.
Yeah, but I can flip-flop as much as I want. Masa, you want to punch an Aikido guy?
Sure.
I have no idea what...
But yeah, what I was saying, so much of Aikido stuff is great in theory until you actually try and do any of it.
Pancakes, take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that.
I think we are all aware of that song.
Bacon pancakes, make them bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes.
Making bacon pancakes, making bacon pancakes. First I make some bacon and I put it in a pancake, making bacon pancakes. Good
I always
gracious.
think of the remake of the, what's that song? The New York song?
I know they made a remake of it.
The remix?
Remix. Yeah.
Remix, whatever.
Suicide Squad.
Well,
Premieres on
Monster
HBO
Hunter.
Max. These are your brothers and sisters for the next few days.
Making
This-
pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes. Making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake. Bacon pancakes, that's what it's gonna make. Bacon pancakes. Making pancakes, making bacon pancakes. Take some bacon and I'll put it in a pancake.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
People are weird. What the fuck?
Come on, try to get close, huh?
Why the hell? Damn, bro.
It's Aikido. He's doing no touch.
This is functional Aikido, have you know.
It was still trippy to me to find out that Ueshiba was pretty much the inventor of no-touch martial arts.
I mean, it's sad if you think of how it came about. No, no, like Masa, have you like heard about all this? Like have you looked into it at any point?
Not really. I thought he was like a I don't want to fight kind of martial artist, though.
He didn't want to fight, but he could. Like, how am I supposed to use that ability? There it is, and now I deal more damage. Here, Luca, you're not playing. You can explain.
Okay, I'll explain because I'm not playing. So Ueshiba was allegedly a very talented street fighter, competitive. Like he fight a lot of dudes, and people got extremely scared of him. So in his older age, even though he probably wasn't as capable anymore, his students still had a lot of fear and respect from his reputation and him teaching them. So he discovered this sort of weird phenomenon where they would be too scared to attack him so he could move when they're coming at him, and they'd flinch and not follow through with their attack and occasionally stumble or fall over. And thus he started implementing this into a regular thing of how he could, you know, flip people around without touching them, and thus creating no-touch martial arts, which then became a thing going through into higher ranks of Aikido, into seminars for people that were like 6 and up, done, practicing no touch and then having no explanation of even figure out, yeah, I don't want to move because someone is so far ahead of me and I don't want to be disrespectful and they could probably hurt me because look at their rank.
So Denmark is essentially reputation.
It's not even Denmark, so
Denmark is like the poison hand. It's the ability to touch somebody and then they have a delayed death.
Denmark means pressure points in Chinese, or something very similar to pressure points in Cantonese. And someone, what was it? Was it like Count Dante or some shit?
Count Dante was really well known for it. I can teach you the Denmark. Touch one man and they die later.
But look, I know
Today.
pressure points because they stop your chi flow, but really what it was is like the medicine points, or like punching someone in the side of the jaw, or punching someone in the nose.
It's like a diminishing fighter. Like the closest thing in Japanese arts would be like a kyushu. So in the West, they really see that as, oh, I can touch you here, 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 and here, and you're gonna pass out, and then we have to shake your legs above your head. So the way that's viewed in Japan is kyushu. These specific areas are literally, hey, you punch them in the arm right here, their hand is pretty much getting a dead arm. You're not knocking them out or anything. You're just inhibiting their ability to use that. So that's where it kind of came from. But you know, the Westerners kind of get a hold of it, and they're like, you know what? We can tell people that this is what happens, because they didn't have a really big understanding of it. And then of course, you know, the Japanese get on, and they're like, you know what? We can make money. So they started marketing it as that, which is how most things come up.
Governments really do kind of fuck over martial arts a lot, don't they?
What?
Trying to
What do?
governments and like big governing organizations.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't think everyone Kung Fu is such a big representation. You wouldn't think like reputation for what it is. You wouldn't think it only got messed up in the 90s.
Okay, Master Ken needs to do a reaction to this character because he keeps doing a thrust of freedom.
Master Ken here, one of our secret Street Fighter 2.
I hate his Raid Shadow Legends commercial.
Why?
I just do. Speaking of that, let's thank our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends.
Have you seen Sensei Seth's impression of Master Ken?
No.
So he did one of those if every martial art in the same room, and it was if every martial art taught each other something, and he's basically just like standing there while Wing Chun, boxing, Sambo just sort of go through, just holding his belt with his sleeves gone and shit, red gi.
Sensei Seth just seems like a really chill dude. Alrighty, well, it was nice hanging out with you, Masa. I'm sure that the few followers we had really enjoyed you being here. You're loved and valued, and you balance us out. Tell Rob we said hi. Have a good one. Why is he shooting a bow?
Oh, because he's magic. He's not one of those sorcerer dudes like the tiger lady.
I thought you were playing like the Taekwondo guy.
Nope.
We know a fighter who looks just like him.
We do.
He's a karateka as well. An American karateka. Alright.
Do you want to do one? Or do you want to close it out here?
We can either play one more or we can close it out. It's up to you.
So let's close it out.
Alright, guys. It's been fun. It's been real, but it hadn't been real fun.
Fuck. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm kidding.
Yeah, guys. Comment below if there's anything else you'd like to see. If there's any other games you'd like us to stream. If there's any characters you'd like us to do. A specific character versus another specific character. If there's any questions you'd like us to talk about while we play. Or any questions you'd like us to go over on a podcast and a discussion as itself. Let us know if there's pretty much anything you want to see. Because we're here to please the people. We're Combat Connection, and we're here to connect all things combat. You got anything you want to say?
Yeah, peace. Also, if you're watching this after the fact, watch us live next time. What the fuck, bro?
So, like, one thing, though. My mouse is messing up immensely. So we're going to be a minute before we can actually exit it.
You're like getting punched in the face.
No, like, if you can talk about something for just a moment. For some reason, I'm experiencing mouse drift.